Berger, you're a very well-known journalism or former journalism professor at Rhodes University, now at UNESCO, specializing in press freedom. You've just facilitated a very interesting roundtable discussion on press freedom. What really stood out for you from that session?
Well, there are lots of attacks on journalists at the moment, all over the world, from law, from politicians. There are physical attacks, there are digital attacks, there's fake news trying to discredit journalists. It's a perfect storm, and what stood out for me is that journalists are recognizing now is the time to stand firm and to push back.
Were there any particular regions that seemed more, in that sense, that seemed more problematic at the moment than others, just judging by some of the speakers that stood up?
Yeah, well, there were concerns about some countries where like in Central America, the drug barons are really wiping out journalists on a weekly basis almost. There are concerns in Turkey after the state of emergency. A lot of journalists are caught up in the arrests. There are concerns expressed in the Philippines because the amount of abuse of journalists is huge in terms of online intimidation. But what was, I think, quite clear about all this is that the journalists see themselves as doing a good public service, and they are concerned that society should support them, because in the end the public need the credibility of proper journalism, especially in a world when there's so much information, so much disinformation, so many difficult things to understand. Journalism, it's got to be preserved.
On that note, I mean, fake news really seems to be quite a buzzword these days. It has been around for a long time, but we've just seemed to have sort of given it a name over the last year or so. How has that played into it? And you also spoke about, or focused a lot on digital media, social media, the advent of that. How has that affected it?
Well, the fake news thing has had two effects. The one is that some governments are saying, okay, they will pass laws to stop fake news. Now the danger is if a government decides what is fake or not, you can see this is not good for press freedom. At the same time, the real journalists who don't necessarily want a law about this, they are faced with a huge volume of fabrication, and it's very easy for somebody to just dream up a false news story. Sometimes they paid to do that, paid Twitter, for example, and the journalists have got to compete to show that what they're doing is a serious, credible, reliable, trustworthy service of collecting what's really going on. Because if the public can't really distinguish what's happening between all the nonsense and the kind of more true stuff, well, how will societies ever get ahead?
And when you look back at how the media industry has evolved in South Africa, and regarding censorship, that's also been an issue of late with the sort of South African Broadcasting Corporation, etc. What can you say about that? I mean, how do you feel about the future of press freedom in South Africa?
Yeah. Well, South Africa has a very strong constitution for press freedom, and it has a strong judiciary, it has a strong media. I think the public, having experienced apartheid, the public know that actually freedom of expression is a very good thing. So anybody who ever would want to try to tie the hands of the press, I think would find it pretty difficult to do in South Africa.